Hi everybody, Cat King here. Chandra and I just finished watching Love and Mercy. I'd never seen it. Uh, um, I, this is my reaction video. Um, I don't really know exactly how to start. I guess I'll just kind of start at the beginning of the movie. On its face, this is just another white man, white privileged man. But he suffers, and he suffered, and when we talk about, I'll set that aside because especially as the movie progresses and toward the middle to the end of the movie is where I really did. I mean, I understood him from the very beginning, but I just I couldn't get past the whole genius savant thing that they were doing for the first half of the movie. But because if that's true, that he really heard all those instruments and things like that, all the parts and arrangements, oh my God, wow, that is truly remarkable, because that's just not, as a musician, I experiment and play and tinker in the same way, but it's really just, I think, in the standard way that many musicians tinker around. And I don't know that, they were just, I don't know, they were just painting this, typical, it was very John Nash, very Beautiful Mind. But and of course I love the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson's music, and I didn't even know for most of my life that he had any kind of psychotic illness at all until, gosh, it was really, really probably around the time I was in the military that I ever spent that much time. My dad, was born in 1954. He loved the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson and Dennis and Carl, all of them. And I'd seen That Thing You Do, but I'd not seen this movie, and I haven't seen any documentaries or anything. But since Brian Wilson passed away, I thought we would watch it. And it just, there's a few parts where he's in bed. It's really toward the end of the movie, and he's in his bed, and he's just in all states. He's everywhere all at once, everything everywhere all at once. And that quantum, that feeling of quantum flux, or state of flux of space and time, and being your child self and your adult self, and being in all these different places. Also, just him laying in bed and listening to the voices. My voices, I don't hear, I hear music. I have inspiration, and I think that, again, inspiration for music in the traditional sense of most musicians. I hear music, but I hear different music and different words and sounds from different, snippets and clips. Kind of more like when we heard the radio sometimes in the movie, or the overlapping music and things like that, or the distortion. That's what I hear when he's laying on the hood of the Corvette. I think it's a Corvette, and he's in his that zone before he gets kind of pulled out of it. I think most people have had sort of similar experiences in that sense, but I don't come out of it. I don't get pulled out of it. It's sort of always present. That's why Phil Spector's Wall of Sound music for me is very triggering. I love Phil Spector music when I was a child, and it's really sad to know that he was convicted of murder. But that Wall of Sound, and similar to what he did, Brian Wilson was doing a lot of that same type of thing, and in the movie we see a lot of that. But yes, the manipulations and the machinations of the therapist. I mean, I can see that happening. I never quite had that experience because I wasn't ever privileged enough to have money to have a team of people around me all the time. I was committed and into county facilities throughout my entire, or military facilities throughout my entire life. So I never really had a personal therapist who lived with me. But I did have my mom, who suggested many times when I was living with her after after separating from my then partner, about a year or two after I was diagnosed. And I did have, the suggestion was raise a conservatorship, and my mom really did want and feel it was necessary. I didn't. And it became apparent to me. So I just, without my relationship with my mom is really complicated because I love my mom and I feel like we're in a good place finally. But I know that once she finds out that I'm talking about all this stuff publicly, once again, I will probably get an angry email, text, message, call, and then I won't hear from her again for a year. And that's just like what I've come to expect from my mom, because talking about my entire life is trauma. Like all of it is trauma. It's one traumatic, constant life after another, lived over and over again for now 35 years. That's what it feels like. And I live it all the time. It's always there. It's always present. It doesn't go away. I don't have my illness in episodes. It's always with me. And I don't have it. So it's like I relate to Brian Wilson on this way, that he had these symptoms. My beginning symptoms were a little bit different. Like I will say that I definitely heard things when I was in high school, and I heard things that scared me so much that I had a steak knife under my pillow. But I have to understand that there was also trauma relating to things with steak knives with my mom's boyfriend, who she later married after this whole thing happened. So it's just like a whole thing and I also related to when he was at the table with the friends and he was on the date with Melinda, and they were talking, and then all of a sudden they just got up and left because he started just talking about his dad beating him up and how he lost his hearing and how his dad was an unhappy man. And he just kind of starts just going into it, and it made other people uncomfortable, and they just left. That's happened to me pretty much my whole life. It happened to me with friends, with strangers, with my relationships. I wasn't allowed to talk about any of my trauma with my ex or my other exes. Like two of my exes, it was just not a thing. You couldn't talk about it, especially anything in the military. Anything related to the military wouldn't. It was like, save that for therapy. I can't deal with it. And my last relationship before this one ended because I guess the person just couldn't deal with the fact that, yes, I am a paranoid schizophrenic. So is it any wonder that during the 2020 pandemic that I would walk into a sushi restaurant and be a little paranoid that people are watching me? Yes, because I'd been laid off my job and I was holed up in my apartment and I was, again, treatment resistant, and I had geodon, but I had started having these panic attacks and ocular crisis episodes, my eyes, that made me think I was having a seizure or that I was stuck. And then I thought I was psychotic and I was hallucinating, but it was actually a true and real side effect of my medication that other people were witnessing and seeing. And it was happening in public. It was happening when I was driving. I finally had a medication that worked to like help with the voices, that I could concentrate and function better, but it came at a cost, and the cost was not being able to drive safely, not being able to work safely, not being able to talk and enjoy life, because at any minute I could be stricken with this dystonia of the eyes, where my eyes would lock and fix upward. It's almost as if, like, do you remember being told not to roll your eyes because they would get stuck like that? That's what I experienced. And I experienced this on and off for a year and a half. It went on. And it ruined every aspect of my life. I couldn't play video games anymore because I would get triggered with panic, and then it would set off my my dystonia, the ocular. I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know. I just thought, this is my new normal. I don't know what's going on. And so I would be taken to the emergency room, where I'd have to go to the emergency room, and they would give me Ativan or Xanax to break it. But before I ever went to the emergency room, I would be suffering in the state of pure terror. I mean, existential terror. Like, I thought I was really, truly dying. And I was crying and pacing and crying and pacing and crying and pacing. And I almost threw myself out of a moving car. The urge was so strong to just throw myself out of the car at one point on the way over to the clinic. I didn't think I was going to make it. I kept asking, how close are we? How close are we to the clinic? What street are we at? What signal are we at? Are we almost there? Like, every moment was torture. And I thought any moment I was going to throw myself out of the car and be done with it. Like, that was all. I just wanted nothingness. I just wanted nothingness. I just wanted everything to stop. I just want to wake up to the sound of just like my thoughts. I want to be able to just wake up to just like, I want a private moment. I want to be able to not hear Al's voice. I want to not be able to hear my grandmother's voice or my mom's voice. I want to be able to hear like my voice. But I want you to know that I have voices that don't sound like anybody in my family and don't have anything to do with my past trauma. And that's something that we don't really capture a lot of in this movie. But everyone's experience is different. And so if, like, I understand that they each a creative license. I don't know where, but for me, like, I don't know. All I know is that when I make the next movie I make about my life, because I made a movie, but it was more like my hopes and fears about becoming a teacher with schizophrenia and having a breakdown in front of my biggest fear was, what if I have a break in front of my kids and I lose my job? What will I do? Because all I ever wanted to do was be a fucking teacher, you know? And I didn't want to even be a teacher so that I could like teach and instruct. I wanted to be a teacher so that I could be the adult in the room that I never had. Somebody who would never give up on me. Somebody who would believe in me. Somebody who would be my advocate and champion. And I never had that. I mean, I thought I did when I was really little. But then, I don't know, it was like my mom wasn't my mom anymore. Everything that I had been raised to believe in no longer applied, no longer meant anything. It just didn't exist anymore. And from early childhood on, I don't know how does a person ever recover from something like that. So for Brian Wilson, like that stuff with his dad, like my mom has physically like hit me, but like she was trying to say, I guess she was trying to save my life. About the conservatorship. Essentially what happened was my mom was I was with my mom and we were living all in this double wide fucking trailer. And it was nice. I'll give you that. Nice for what it was. Very nice for what it was. Compared to the one we were in when Al came along in our lives. But nonetheless, this was a manufactured home or a mobile home or trailer. And we were there and my mom was, I had left my ex, or I thought I'd left my ex for good, but I don't know. This is what happened. So I was in my room, minding my business, and I heard my mom going on about how no one ever helps her. And I had like just vacuumed and cleaned and done stuff. And I was just like, what is she talking about? You know? And I was just like, what the fuck? So I went into the kitchen and I was like, what are you talking about? I just helped you with the kitchen. I just helped you with this. I just did this and this and this. Don't go telling everybody in the world that like, nobody helps you around here. Like, who are you talking about? Do I not exist? Am I not a real person? And then she just, I don't know. I don't remember what she said because the next thing I swallowed an entire bottle of my medication. Like, I just was done. I was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. I'm not going to be your fucking slave my entire life. Okay. I have had enough being my mom's fucking slave and caretaker and taking care of my mom. She never appreciated it when I tried to warn her. I've always tried to come to my mom and I've always believed that we had an open, honest relationship. And I've always told my mom everything. And every time I've ever told my mom everything, it's always come back to bite me in the ass because she never really truly accepts what I'm saying without judgment. She's always analyzing. She's always looking for something that she can twist up in her mind and to make to mean something else. And then she tells me, oh, I have a thought processing disorder. Yeah, I would say so. You can't understand that endangering your children's lives repeatedly over and over again for 15 years, that keeping your enemies closer is not like a thing. That's a thing for movies. That's the thing that they say in the fucking movies. That's not in real life. But I'm supposed to just get over it. We're just supposed to be, it's all water under the bridge. You know, that happened. But, you know, I finally divorced him. I finally divorced him after 15 years. But 15 years of physical and emotional and psychological torture. And when I say emotional and psychological, I don't mean just emotional and psychological. There was years of physical abuse. So I don't want to hear that like, that's okay. And my mom will still say things like, oh, well, yeah, Al may have been a shit. And when I say Al, I mean Alfred Jason Corona, a convicted pedophile child molester. Like we're talking about a pedophile who acted on these things and was convicted. So he's a pedophile, but he's also a child molester, convicted on the registry. Or he should be. He's supposed to be registering everywhere he goes. Even if he's homeless, he's supposed to register what bridge he's under. Okay, that's how it goes. But you have to understand that, like, my sister, the thing is, he's convicted of doing things like sending pictures of his penis to a little girl. He's convicted of things like sending love letters to, again, his daughter's best friend, neighbor friend, the next door neighbor's friend, and like sending letters and sending my mom's wedding ring. Okay, but he never got charged with actually physically doing anything to anybody except. The sending the love letters and the ring, but he never put his hands or body parts, but he was annoying or molesting a child. So that was a crime, obviously. But you have to understand, like, from my mind, my mom, I saw pictures of little girls on the computer when I was 11 years old. And I told my mom, I waited. I was scared because, remember, this man wasn't my mom's husband yet. He was my mom's boyfriend, but he'd already threatened to kill her. He'd already tried to kill her. He'd already brandished a knife in front of her, in front of my sister, and I had it to her throat. Okay, and this was just a year prior, and we were now living with him again, and he was back in the house. And I was scared of him. So I had to make a choice of, what do I do? Do I tell my mom or not? Because she already took him back once, knowing after what he did in front of us all. Like, I didn't believe, I actually had lost all faith and trust in my mom being able to keep us safe anymore at that point. So I was afraid that she would just get mad. And she did. She got mad at me for waiting 2 days to tell her. And then nothing happened. She actually ended up telling me that, oh, that wasn't even what you thought it was. My mom, who was also molested by her stepfather and whose mother told her the same kind of thing. First it was, all daddies, kiss their kids on the lips. Good night. But he's not her dad. He's her stepdad. First of all, her dad died of a heart attack at 43 years old, a week before her 17th birthday. So no man gets to kiss me except my dad. My dad's dead. So how dare he? And first of all, then her mom started blaming her for wearing some kind of see-through nightie or something. I was like, you bought it for her? What the heck? What are you talking about? Like, so this happened. So my mom was treated a certain way. So now it's okay to turn around and do the same thing. I thought my mom's whole thing, my whole fucking life has been, I'm not my mom. I'm never going to be my mother. I'm never going to be like my mother. Oh, if I ever turn into my mom, don't ever let me turn to my mom. Just shoot me. Just shoot me. I'll just die. Oh, okay, Marilyn. I think we're there. The day that she told me that a little girl whose father died from cancer when she was a baby, or a little girl, sorry, not a baby, but I say baby because they're all babies to me, but like, she was young and she lost her dad to cancer. And this is my mom's supposed best friend. And this is my mom's supposed best friend's daughter. My mom, who lost her father, again, one more time. My father lost her dad to a heart attack when she was 16, going on 17 years old, just a week before her birthday. And this is the same woman telling me that because she had a falling out with this other little girl's mom, that little girl will now have to wait till she's 18 to come get that pink big old crate full of pictures. All of this little girl's pictures of her father are in this big giant pink crate that happened to get moved up to where my mom was living. When all hell broke loose and we all just fled. Everybody just scattered. I went back to my ex because my mom had struck me over the face and I was done. And I was like, if she's going to be my conservator and she thinks she can put her hands on me, I don't care if she thought she was saving my life. She wanted to hit me. She wanted to hit me for a long time. Like, I didn't believe my mom was doing that out of like love. Okay. And so I went back to my ex and it was safer for me to be there, honestly. And it wasn't. But it was to me in my mind, because look at what I'd already been through in my life. And of course, by the time I was at all in this, I'd already been to the military now, and I'd been stranded in New Zealand and had been abandoned by my family. Like, I have a whole fucking life. Every year of my life was just homelessness, eviction, and we were domestic violence and battered women's shelters, and then back in shitty motels, and then him back in the house and screaming, I'm going to kill you. And then, all this crap always going on, then periods of quiet and calm and happy and joy and fun, and then preceded by more shit. And, it was just the cycles. And he was in and out. We had restraining orders. It was just 15 years. This is half my life. This is from the time I was 10, 11 years old I was back in from the military. He didn't actually really leave, and my mom didn't actually divorce him until a few years ago. And it's just like this was going on. My mom knew everything about him. Before she married him, she knew something was wrong with him. I tried to tell her, my sister tried to tell her, but she did the same thing that her mom did to her. Oh, you're just mad about the divorce. You thought your dad and I were going to get back together, because at the time my dad was coming over, and even though they were separated, my dad was coming over having dinner, and they were getting along. And I think my sister got her hopes up. And so I thought she was having a fight about that, basically, with my mom when it came to like Al being in the picture. Like, who is this guy when dad's here? Like, you guys are getting along. What's going on? And then this other guy comes in and he says it's a Marine. And then there's this one night where he puts his hands on me and he tells me that he dragged his wife's dead body with their son, whatever, across the Gulf. And he's showing me all this FBI stuff. That what you have to understand is that I was 10 and my career project in 5th grade was the FBI. And I was obsessed with Star Trek Voyager. It was my whole world, my special interest, if you will. I lived it, ate it, slept it, breathed it. I was Captain Janeway, and everywhere I went was the Starship Voyager, even when I was 10, even when I was 11, even when I was 12. This went on. It was maladaptive even. Like, I was just constantly, I just wasn't in the real world because that was all I had. It was how I drowned out what was happening around me. It was how I escaped. It was all I had. And my mom always made me feel bad about it, always put it down, always made me feel ashamed of it, always, especially the Janeway thing, and always about the Janeway thing. Like I found out later, my dad said that it was my mom who wanted me to see a psychologist when I was a kid, really young, when I was 5, 6, because of my unnatural Janeway fixation. So it's like, okay, we're talking about years and years. My mom pretending like she's supportive and telling me when I was a really little girl that basically by her, doing anything and everything that I could do because I was so talented and good and I could do anything I wanted and be anything. But when I started to do those things and grew up and started to pursue those things and then talk about my life and what had happened to me, oh, now I'm airing our family's dirty laundry. Oh, no. Now because it paints me in a bad light. Now how dare you? How dare you? You're not part of the family anymore because you aired our family's dirty laundry. You've betrayed I thought we were past all that. You said you forgave me and I'm blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, forgiving is not the same thing as forgetting. And 9 out of 10 people with schizophrenia have a history of childhood trauma. And who is responsible for the traumas of childhood but the parents, the caregivers?
The adults.
The adult, the mother, the father. And both of my parents traumatized me in different ways. Okay, my father beating me with that yardstick on Christmas. I've never been able to get past that. And I know that my father has told me years since then that he was a very violent person when he was younger. And that he only by getting saved, only through being saved and being redeemed and all of that, through Christ and all of that was he able to overcome it. But it was just like, my father and I have just a weird relationship because he gave me Star Trek. He gave me Voyager. And now, like a year ago, he told me, I regret that. Like, it's my fault that you believe in all this whack shit because I gave you Star Trek. It's my fault that you're the way you are. All of this is my fault. My mom's like, oh, it's my fault because I was with this guy and that's the reason why you're gay. And I was like, no. Stop once again, you keep making it about you. You're the one who pegged me as a gay before I even ever knew what it was. You never told me anything about it. You told my dad, and he told me years later. But nothing was ever said to me. All you did was make me feel really ashamed of my obsession, my hero worship, which I thought what I was doing was hero worship. And by the way, all of my journal entries, none of them have any romantic context to them whatsoever. It's all asking about what I should do, about my parents' divorce, asking her for advice because my mother had just my mom died to me. My mom was not my mom. This person was not the person I grew up around. Okay, my mom just can you understand that for a person like me with schizophrenia, for me, I have a Cotard syndrome problem and I have a Capgras problem, and I don't see that in this movie. And I want to get back to Love and Mercy for a second because obviously I started this because I'm watching this movie and I'm trying to and of course, I stopped. I was just crying because a lot of it was like with his dad and him. My mom she full on fucking smacked me so hard. I had a scratch clear across my cheeks that the whole neighborhood saw. My grandmother came over, and when my grandmother came over and saw that, you know what she did? She turned my cheek and she was like, and like just looked the other way. She didn't even say anything. My grandmother has actually literally said when I moved out of the abusive, toxic, alcoholic household and all that, and I broke free, and I did everything that everybody told me to do. I a safe place to land on my grandma's doorstep. My grandmother turned to me and said, "I'm going to church," and handed me a bunch of brochures and said, "Here, bum." And she just tossed a bunch of these brochures at me and said, "I'm sure that one of these churches here will take you." This is after a Mother's Day. There was a Mother's Day thing. They had a Mother's Day luncheon, a brunch at my grandmother's church. And I went with her, and my mom went with her, and my sister, and we all went. And I surprised my grandmother with an edible arrangement and a card and everything at her table. And she looked at me like she just wanted to die. Like she was humiliated by it. And I found out later from my mom that my grandmother had been talking about me and my mom and, you know, her kids and everybody, you know, not exactly in the nicest way. So she was shocked that we were even there at her church. And then it turns out that my mom went to the church to ask for help to mediate their relationship, basically, and threw herself at the ministry and said, "Please help us. I love my mom. I want to repair our relationship. I want to reconcile with my mom. Please help. How do I do this?" And my grandmother wrote, oh my gosh, my grandmother went like, oh my gosh, my grandmother lost her ever loving fucking mind. How dare you? How dare you? You know, it was just like, this is my grandmother who like knits and crochets caps for, you know, dying Russian cancer patients, children with leukemia. But she can't.
But that's what I'm saying.
You know, so we're talking about generational trauma. So we're talking about a cycle of narcissistic, malignant abuse, basically, that just continues to fester on in our family and continues to breed, infect, and continue to breed through our genes, our gene pool, and our gene, infect our line. And the buck stops with me, I guess, because I'm gay, so I ain't having kids. And it's not because I chose to be gay. Like, obviously, my mom pegged me. I was 5. My mom figured it out for me, right? So, but without telling me. Remember, my mom never told me. So don't get this idea in your head that my mom made me gay with her weird thing about, you know, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like all that fear about making me gay and all that what made me gay. No, that's not what happened here. I am gay. I'm just gay. Okay. I was just born that way. And nothing that anybody does can change it. So my ex-boyfriend who raped me can't change it. And that's a trauma. And that's something that I fucking live with all the time. You know, and it's just like, I have been sexually assaulted. That trauma also lives with me. Those aren't delusions. You know, those happened. And the thing about him not being believed or being at the mercy of his therapist, because the therapist has the license and has the expertise and has the trust of the community and has the trust of the system and, you know, has all that power, and he has no power. I understand that. I feared that with my mom so badly. That's why I went back to my abusive, toxic, alcoholic ex. Like, I was so willing to put myself in another situation where I'd be falsely imprisoned, my keys would be taken from me. You know what I mean? Followed to the Starbucks when I'm trying to get away from these situations. I was so desperate to just find somewhere to land. And there was just never any safe place. And every year, since the year 1998, you know, it's just been a shit show of bullshit, nonsense, and fuckery of adults not protecting their children, of adults turning away from their children for some reason or another, some fucking stupid fucking bullshit, some delusion. Don't call me deluded. I got my shit together in relation with my parents, to my family. I'm the sanest one, and that's saying something, right? That's saying something. Treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Very few people ever find recovery from this. I have been given a death sentence, essentially an incurable diagnosis of an incurable illness. They're telling me essentially that I have essentially something that will either kill me or I will just struggle with. I'm just going to have to ignore it and just, fight through it and just ignore it and just act normal, act normal, act normal, act normal.
Whatever that is.
That very first scene where he walks up to the car, he's in the trying to buy the Cadillac and everything. That whole first scene, like, I relate to having people feel that way about me. I'm not sure if I'm safe with this person because they're talking to me so so strangely, like it makes me uneasy, and this dual feeling of I'm intrigued, but I'm also slightly uncomfortable with the way this person's behaving. It's like, welcome to my world where it's like, I feel like a fucking, fish in a bowl or, I just feel like an animal in a zoo, a spectacle. A spectacle. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so again, we're just a spectacle. We can just be mocked. We can just be a plot device. We can just be used and abused and exploited because, there's nothing. It's so easy to discard us. Well, of course, because we don't have, look how crazy we are. No one will ever believe us. We're not capable. We're incompetent. We're not capable. We're mentally incompetent. We're not capable of completing anything from start to finish. But look what Brian Wilson and his brothers and cousins did. And he completed basically almost all of that album while they were on tour in the movie. I don't know if that's real timeline or not. I'm sure they do a lot of messing with the timelines and stuff like that in movies and stuff like that because they're trying to tell a linear story. And they had to do flashbacks already. That's a lot of whiplash for people in a movie. So they try to keep a linear story going while hearkening the past back because they know that 9 out of 10 people with schizophrenia have a history of childhood trauma. So yes, when you see that person in the street, it is a safe assumption that person has been through something that you probably haven't. Something harrowing, something devastating, something traumatic. And when we say traumatic, we're not talking about YouTube traumatic. Okay? We're not talking about your fucking traumas and your triggers, okay? We're talking about real fucking shit that happens to people that they don't make movies about, okay? Because it ain't pretty and it ain't some fucking, famous white savant genius. And that's where we come full circle on Love and Mercy because at the end of the day, that movie was made in what, 2014?
Yeah.
And that's the last movie that we have. Before that was A Beautiful Mind. And that's all we schizos get. Genius white savants. And I respect, again, once again, male, white, heteronormative, of course. This is all we'll ever get. This is the best we can do.
Oh my God, so cute.
That's not true.
No.
There are other people out here. There are still creative people with schizophrenia out there who deserve to be heard and seen. We have there's so much talent out there. I am both defined and not defined by my illness. I don't want to be seen as a genius. I don't want to be seen as a savant. I don't want to be seen as a perfect person or a hero. I don't want to be pedestalized. I don't need that or deserve that. No one needs that or deserves that. Okay. We are human, fallible. I really struggle. Shen will be the first person to tell you I struggle. But I don't deserve to be exploited, mocked, vilified. I don't deserve movies like Split. Okay, I'd still rather pick a movie like Love and Mercy, which is hopeful. He lived to 82 years old. Yes, with dementia. Yes, with dementia, but he got the girl. He broke free from that abusive therapist. But he was never truly free from his schizophrenia. He lived with it the rest of his life.
But I love that they showed that he found a sanctuary regardless. He was still able to make a sanctuary and find a sanctuary in another person. And still have schizophrenia. And still be accepted. And still feel safe.
Sure. But he didn't have the history that I do with relationships either.
Right.
He had one person. But I have had a series of people who've come into my life and promised to love me in that way.
Yeah, thrown you out like an item.
And then, like I said, the last one was probably the most painful because I was literally told I love you. I was getting married. I was in a perfect relationship in my mind, and I was completely blindsided by being told, after being told every day, I love you, I love you, I love you every day, that I don't love you. Like literally, I woke up on a Saturday morning to I don't love you.
And it proves that the delusion and the crazy doesn't necessarily lie in the schizophrenic.
I had because this is where shit gets weird, because
therapist.
I know what you're gonna say. You're saying this, and I hear what you're saying, but remember that I had a dream. I told you I had a dream that my ex would shut down on me. I had a dream where I was trying to talk to her, and she kept walking away, and like she wouldn't acknowledge me, and she just started to shut me out. And I couldn't get her to stop and look at me. She wouldn't even look at me. And then this happened because like the next day I woke up and I told her about this dream and how scared I was. And the voices were telling me as soon as I woke up, she hates you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't really love you. She doesn't really love you. And when we say voices, I mean, if you've seen Love and Mercy, it's voices are not in my head, okay? They're external in the room. They sound like people behind me, next to me, okay? Above me, all around me. So we're not talking about just like in your head, your thoughts, okay? They're not my thoughts. These thoughts don't belong to me.
I think it's also good.
These voices don't belong to me. They're not in my voice. So it's just not that. That's just not my experience. But for us, it was like that. It was. It's good for a little bit of comic relief for sure, because it's a lot. It's a very intense. It's a very intense story.
I think it's good that this movie shows an example of the fact that. Yeah, it wasn't the schizophrenic man that was violent in this situation. It was was his therapist actually that was violent. And you talk about like the statistics and violence and stuff. Like shows that he's an example of the statistic that more often than not a person with schizophrenia is going to be taken advantage of by others and have violence thrust upon them by others rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I am actually an outlier. Violence, if you've ever watched any of the things that I posted about my illness and my life, I have admitted to being violent in the past. But it's important to understand that, again, I sort of like am an outlier because the statistics from the Schizophrenia Bulletin, from the National Institute of Mental Health, there are multiple sources that put the statistic at people with schizophrenia are 10 to 14 times more likely to be victims of violence than to perpetrate it.
Yeah, and Brian Wilson's an example.
And Brian Wilson is a really good textbook case of that, example of that being the case. Where his therapist was actually more violent and hostile and aggressive than he ever was. But like I said, just being honest, and if we're comparing and contrasting here, which I am, I have a violent history, but I don't see myself as an inherently violent person. I wasn't inherently a violent child. I was always an emotionally dysregulated child. I would get really frustrated very easily because I had undiagnosed ADHD.
I think that comes from
but I also, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Okay.
It's not about that.
I'm just saying you were like